Hey everyone, it's Richard Middlefan here, bringing you guys an old school album review. And today we're going to be looking into this album's 20th anniversary. I meant to do this like 2 days ago, but I just forgot about it and I just been busy, but I now have the time. So, as you can see by the title, today we're going to be talking about Sons of Northern Darkness by Immortal. The band's seventh album was released on February 4th, 2002 through Nuclear Blast Records. Now, I pretty much don't need to talk much about Immortal. I'm pretty sure all of you have heard of them. Classic band in the black metal scene, been around since the early 90s. And this, of course, follows up their previous album, Damned in Black, which came out in 2000. And Immortal, for me, there are a black metal band, but mostly it was when they had At the Heart of Winter, which in my opinion is probably my favorite Immortal album and probably my favorite black metal album of all time. Between that and Damned in Black, they have the black metal stuff, but they also have a little bit of like a thrash metal vibe with all these songs. Um, and this album, I think is a really good follow up to Damned in Black. The production wise, it actually is produced by Peter Tagrin from, of course, Hypocrisy and Pain. Um, and just like the vocals, like the legendary Abbott has that kind of like raspy this, and you could definitely tell it has that kind of like cold and darkness vibe with it. And his guitar playing on this album is great. He comes up with some great riffs. Horg on the drums, the dude's a freaking beast. And bass wise, and here's a little trivia that I did not know. No, they have a bass player on here called Iscaria. I believe this is actually his last album with the band. But on this album, he only played bass on the first song, One by One, and Abbott played bass on pretty much the rest of the song. So I don't even know why that is. So if anybody could comment down below, just let me know. So without further ado, let's dive into this album track by track. Now, starting things off is One by One, which right from the get-go is just a brutal opener. Has some really sick black metal drumming with, of course, blast beats is featured as some nice heavy riffs. And I love like the sound quality is really good as every instrument just cuts through and clear, and the riffs progress and it gets really heavier, and the drums are just insane. And I just love the merciless shrieking of Abbott. And then 3 minutes in, there's like a brief breaks, which providing a little bit of air, which I think is really, really great. Um, Next up is the title track, the Sons of Northern Darkness. It starts off with some great drumming and is followed by some interesting guitar sounds. There's like sections with like slower riffs and blast beats, and then just over a minute and a half there's a great slow part, and the guitars echo with the lead riffs, and it just sounds amazing. And the drums are solid with the double bass that is just placed pretty much under Abbott's vocals, and I just think it's a pretty good song. And then following that is the next song, which is called Tyrants. Now, this song is pretty much evidently becomes quite like the slow song, and for whatever reason, the bass becomes very audible here. And Abbott's voice sounds very distant and echoes, whether it's not intentional or not, and it's used to great effect. And the music throughout carries a great melody, and it just flows really beautifully. And I think, in my opinion, is probably the standout track on Sons of Northern Darkness. And most people would think a black metal song is weird to be called beautiful, but it just comes dangerously close. And then there's like a great instrumental break, and then the music comes back full force with some fast double bass section, and then near the end we get a second guitar recorded in the song with a great lead riff. And then we get to the next song on the album, which is called Demonomium, which goes back into that classic chaotic black metal roots. Insanely fast drumming with some blast beats to go around, and has some really great high-pitched guitar, and then much-needed shrieking screams. And I just think it stays dark and sick throughout the whole song. Next song on the album is called Within the Dark Mind. Now, it begins with a good steady pace with some dark riffs and solid drummings, and this track is another with great flowing melody, and the structure is kind of repeated for quite a while, and then 3.5 minutes in it's just some clean guitars to ring, and it just fits really well. Now, and near the end it comes with a great guitar or solo, and it's just slower than the others, but it just sounds really great. And then we move on to In My Kingdom Cold. hold. Now, this song combines sort of like the softer flowing songs with some heavier songs like Demononium, and it has a slow guitar riffs that combine with sort of like crazy fat strumming of Horg, and not to mention a few great pinch harmonics in the beginning, and the sweet lead riffs are featured once again, backed by some more double bass, and the music repeats itself, and I'm pretty sure the lyrics do too, but Abbott sort of like drowns himself in sort of like a low pitch shriek carried on for about 30 seconds, around like 3.5 minutes mark, and there's like some heavy palm muted riffs that are featured, and it goes on a little bit too long, but I feel like it's something good to carry throughout the 7.5 minutes. And um, next up is Antarctica. Now, oh, I feel like this album seems to carry like the theme of being cold and wintry. It's kind of similar to At the Heart of Winter, but that's pretty much like Norway, which is like freaking cold. And then after 50 seconds of just some eerie noise, the music comes in just crashing brutality, and the riffs are just chunky and heavy, and there's like another great heavy instrumental for about 2.5 minutes, and the vocals are dispersed throughout. And this is quite an instrumental track, and it's goes on for a solid length of like 7 minutes and 15 seconds. It's a decent track, but I feel like there's no point in writing an entire 7 minutes if it's kind of repetitive. And then we close things out with the last song called Beyond the North Waves. Now, this has some like strange clean guitars opening the track, and it sounds very hollow, though, but has some interesting effects. And the rest of the band comes in, and the music joins the dark side. It sounds very eerie, retaining a slow tempo with some lead riffs, and then a great double bass, which is just placed perfectly, makes sort of like the evil atmosphere. And then halfway through, the speed picks up slightly, but the mood sort of like stays in that kind of like dark, depressing side. And after 5.5 minutes, there's a lead guitar that dominates the song with some songs that only accent from what we've heard so far. But of course, near the end, it definitely gets good, and some excellent lead riffs, heavier drums, and a faster speed that gives sort of like the song that kind of like cold, wintry feel. And then it just closes with some sick screams from Abbott. Now, to make a long story short, this is an incredible album. Like, every song is amazing. It sounds a little bit heavier, and it's a lot more parts that sound very complex, like than the traditional black metal and the shitty production. And I feel like they kind of like go back to the basics. So if I were to give this album a score, I'm gonna give Sons of Winter Darkness by Immortal a solid 9 out of 10. So yeah, that's my review of the album, guys. Let me know in the comments what you guys think about the album, and I'll see you all in the next video. And as always, keep it metal.